All right. Hello, everybody. It is Saturday. We have some college football action going on. Currently, I've not checked many of the scores today. I've been doing soccer games for nieces and things like that. But I'm going to throw out my week 6 NFL picks. I had Kansas City picked the Thursday night game, and that was the correct pick for that game. And we're going to run through the rest of the games and we'll hit a few injuries. I know there's a ton of players um, that are out this weekend, and we will cover some of those injuries as we go through this. Um, so we'll jump right off bat. We have another London game. This one will consist of Baltimore and Tennessee. I'm going to have to take Baltimore in a bounce back after really a bad offensive performance last week against Pittsburgh. I think Lamar Jackson gets it together a little bit, and I think Baltimore wins this one. Plus, this is like a revenge game from like one of the worst losses Baltimore's ever had. It's like 44-7 or something. Last time they played in London in like 2017, maybe. So I like Baltimore to bounce back on this one. Next, we have Atlanta and Washington. I trust Atlanta a little bit more. Their running game is a lot more consistent, and I think they will get better quarterback play. They got Kyle Pitts decently involved last week, so if Atlanta continues that, I think they will win that game. Next, we have Minnesota and Chicago, and this is one of the big injuries. Justin Jefferson is on IR for the next 4 games or 4 weeks. Games, either way, same thing. Um, and Chicago's on a 2-game winning streak. Justin Fields has played really well the last 2 weeks, throwing 8 touchdowns. I think he's only had 1 interception in that span. Minnesota's favored by 3, but I'm going with Chicago. I think they're going to keep some of that momentum. And without Justin Jefferson, I think the Vikings offense is going to be, I think it's going to stall a little bit. It's going to give Chicago more opportunity to slow down Hawkinson and really force Kirk Cousins to either go with the running game, throw to the running backs, or their rookie. And I think the rookie's not going to handle the coverage that well. So I'm going Chicago on this one. Kind of, excuse me, going out on a limb, but that's going to be one of my upsets for the week. Next, we have Cincinnati and Seattle. I think Cincinnati continues to play the way they did last week. I know Seattle's defense is pretty good. They're pretty good at generating pressure, one of the best in the league. Um, Hopefully, Joe Burrow and his calf is fairly mobile to help eliminate some of that pressure, but I got Cincinnati winning that game. Next, we have Cleveland and San Francisco. This is another one where Kevin Stefanski said that medically, the medical team cleared Deshaun Watson to play, but Deshaun Watson says he is not ready, so he is out. Don't know if he's sitting out because he does not want to play San Francisco's defense and with all the pressure and the playmakers they have, or if he's still um, dealing with that shoulder and it's a legit injury. No one really knows. But I feel like there's an issue with the head coach saying he's been cleared, but he's not playing. So that kind of tells me that there might be something going on. Um, Obviously, I don't know what's going on. No one really does unless they're in the building or the medical team and are the player and the coach. But I just find it odd that the coach said he's been cleared, but he's not going to play. But either way, whether he plays or not, I have San Francisco in that game. San Francisco is the much better team. We have Miami and Carolina. I got Miami in that one. Uh, Actually, I'd mentioned Jefferson for the Vikings out 4 weeks. It says doctors believe he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Uh, let's see. I know Carolina had I thought they had some injuries, but they're not in the top stories or top headlines. But Carolina is playing Miami. Obviously, Miami has the much better offense. I know Miami has the running back, the rookie. I think his last name is A-Chain. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. He has a knee injury and is out. But I think Miami, obviously, the much better team here, much better offense. Not necessarily a great defense because several teams have moved the ball at will against Miami, but Carolina's offense is not going to be able to keep up with Miami. So Miami for the win. Next, we have Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Obviously, Anthony Richardson is out, so Gardner Minshew will be playing. This will be second game back for Jonathan Taylor. But with coming off the heels of beating Buffalo in London last week and really playing really well in that game, I think Jacksonville wins this game. It's a division game. There's some pressure on this game. They really need to win it, so I've got Jacksonville winning that contest. Next, we have New Orleans and Houston, two relatively local teams. Houston being an hour and a half away, New Orleans about 4 hours from the area I am in. I think New Orleans is the better defense. I think provided Carr doesn't have a setback with his shoulder, Alvin Kamara's back, getting him involved. I think New Orleans wins this game, and I think New Orleans actually forces C.J. Stroud to throw his first interception. I'm going to call that one. I think that's going to happen. Next, we have the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots. That is a Bill Belichick and former offensive coordinator facing off against each other. Vegas is favored by 3, but I have New England bouncing back from their worst 2 losses under Bill Belichick. Do not see them getting a third in a row with him. And I think Mac Jones plays better. I think Bill Belichick still has some tricks up his sleeve. I still think he's a really good coach. Obviously, he's not the caliber of coach he was when he had Tom Brady because he had Tom Brady. It's like Andy Reid was a good coach when he had Donovan McNabb. And Donovan McNabb at the time was a good quarterback in the league. He was a top 6, I would say, maybe even top 5. I was younger then, but he was a very good quarterback, and Andy Reid was a very good coach. Then the years where he didn't have McNabb, like he was still a good coach, but he really didn't have that quality quarterback play. Then he goes to Kansas City, has Alex Smith, still a good coach, but didn't get to the Super Bowl without the good quarterback. And then he got Mahomes, and now he's considered the best coach in the league, or one of the 2. So the point of that is, in order to be the best coach in the NFL, you've got to win, and you've got to get to Super Bowls, and you got to win Super Bowls, and that is easiestly done with an elite quarterback. So the fact that Belichick does not have an elite quarterback hurts him in the debate of who's the best coach, but I still think he is a very good coach. And I think he bounces back from his 2 worst losses. So I got New England. That's another upset of the week. Next, we have the LA Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. I have the LA Rams winning that. Better team, better offense, better defense. It is a division game, and the Cardinals are likely to play them tough, but I think the Rams win. Next, we have Philly and the New York Jets. It's reported Sauce Gardner is out. Regardless, I was picking the Eagles. I think they are the much better team. See, I don't see any injuries. Excuse me, I was tired. But I think Philly wins this game. I think they have Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Zach Wilson by far. I think the Jets have the advantage at running back. I think Breece Hall is a better running back than what Philly has, but I think Philly has the advantage at tight end and wide receiver. I think A.J. Brown is a little bit better than Wilson, and they also have Devontae Smith, so that is a very good 1-2 combo. Dallas Goedert got involved at the tight end position last week, and without Sauce Gardner playing, the Jets defense is not going to be as good. So I got Philly winning that. Next, we have Tampa Bay and Detroit. I have Detroit winning. Their running back Gibbs is out, but ultimately, I don't really think that's much to be concerned about because David Montgomery has been the workhorse and done majority of the work. He's a pretty. He's been in Chicago. I've seen him for years in Chicago, so him staying in the division is no. He's not. He's seeing him is not a surprise. Like knowing what he's capable of is not a surprise. Um, so I don't see that really being much of an issue. I think Kirk Cousins will play well. I think both teams will actually play well. I know there were some concerns that maybe Evans and a few members of Tampa Bay that were hurt weren't playing. I think they're going to give it a go, is what I last saw. But ultimately, I think Detroit's the better team, better coach team, better quarterback, and they're kind of on a roll. So I'm going to have to go with Detroit. The Sunday night game is a New York showdown. The New York Giants on the road playing the Buffalo Bills. Daniel Jones is out with a neck injury. Regardless, I was going to be picking Buffalo to bounce back from their loss in London, and that will be a much easier task without Daniel Jones playing because the Giants' offense will be already was atrocious, but it will be much more so without Daniel Jones. So I got Buffalo winning that contest very easily. The Monday night game, probably the most difficult game to pick of the week. It is the LA Chargers hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas coming off a huge loss to San Francisco last Sunday night. Chargers coming off a bye, so they were able to rest, watch that game, get plenty of pointers. You have the former Dallas offensive coordinator playing against Dallas. He is now the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. You know he's going to want to win that game to show that maybe Dallas should have held on to him. So this was a tough game, but I saw reports that McCarthy was staying at the stadium, working 20 hours a day, sleeping 4 hours in his office, was encouraging his coaching staff and trying to tell them not to go home to their families to stay and figure out the team. Um, I get it. You want to win. You want to bounce back. You want to be the contender that everyone talked about you being and that you want to be. But I don't necessarily agree trying to pressure coaching staff into not going home to their family. Like if you want them to work longer hours, put in some time, extra film time, study time, game plan time, like absolutely, I can understand wanting them to put in some extra time. But me personally, I'm real big on work-life balance, and I I would not work to the point that I could not go home to my family every night. If I could not go home and spend some kind of time with my family, provided I had one, wife, kids, don't have that. But if I did, spending some time with them on a daily basis would be a priority, regardless of my work. Obviously, if you got to travel, whatever, you can't do it. But I don't think I would just not go home at night to see them, even if I was putting in extra hours at the facility. That's just me. But a lot of things, to consider. Dallas coming off the big loss, they want to bounce back. The Chargers coming off of a bye, so they're healthy. Played really well against Vegas before the bye. Khalil Mack uh, really went off on Vegas. I believe they played Vegas. But Khalil Mack went off, had, I think, 4 or 5 sacks in one game. So he could be disruptive. Obviously, they have Bosa. So you could see some major disruptiveness on Dallas's O line, on the running backs, on Dak, forcing throws early. Um, and the Chargers have a good offense. I mean, they don't have a great running back, but they've got a decent running back. They have a really good quarterback in Justin Herbert. They have some good receivers. So I mean, they could, take some plays out of San Francisco's playbook and run some similar offensive styles and really give Dallas some trouble. But Ultimately, I think Dallas is the safer pick here. I think them coming off of a loss, they're going to want to bounce back. Everyone's going to be more focused. Um, it's just, and I don't trust Brandon Staley. I don't trust his game management. I don't trust his decision making. And when you have two teams that are relatively close talent wise and on paper, then you gotta look into the coaching. And I trust. I mean, McCarthy's had plenty of game management issues in the past couple years, no doubt about that. But Brandon Staley's calls are just beyond idiotic in some situations. So I have to go with Dallas on this one. I think that they will win a close game in a bounce back. So those are my picks for week 6. Uh, Total win record, loss record is 51-27. Hopefully we can get that back up in towards that 66 to 68, maybe even 70% range, and get back onto some winning because I had a rough week last week going 8-6. The only other thing, uh, I know the trade deadline's coming up this month, so we should see some moves being made. I know a few moves were made last week, but nothing significant. I know Denver is now 1-5, their worst start since like 1994, and it's looking really bad on Sean Payton, looking really bad on Russell Wilson, and they are now on like a 16 game losing streak to the Chiefs. They play again in a few weeks, likely to go to 17. So Denver's in trouble. I mean, they're 1-5, and they're looking to possibly. They play Green Bay next week, so they could get lucky and get that second win. And I say that with the way Green Bay's been playing, not going to take a whole lot of luck to get that second win against Green Bay. But Green Bay, at least coming off a bye, might have a little bit. You know, they may play better coming off a bye, given. But I don't know. I just don't know because they played Thursday before the Monday night game, so they essentially had 11 days to get ready for that Monday night game, and it did not go well. And now they're going to have 13 days because they play on Sunday, they played on Monday night, but Denver just played Thursday, so they're going to have 10 days to get ready. So it's really not a whole lot of an advantage to have those extra couple days. But Denver could win that game, and then I'm not sure who they play, if they play another team and then play Kansas City, or if they go back to Kansas City. But Denver's looking at possibly being 2-6, 2-7 after that Kansas City game. Not a good start, but I'd mentioned in my last video that I watched the Kelce documentary. I'm not a fan of documentaries, even sports documentaries, but for some reason I was looking on Prime for something to watch. I saw Kelce, so I watched it. Really good documentary on mainly focusing around Jason Kelce. And I will say after watching that, like I'm not an Eagles fan, but I did become a fan of his. And I've seen clips on TikTok, Instagram of New Heights, him and Travis's podcast. Very good podcast, very good show. It's extremely funny, and it really appeals to me. It's similar to like the McAfee show. I'm much more inclined to watch those shows for sports news more than I am like Get Up and First Take and Undisputed and things like that, because those are more old style shows and the information is still presented in a more old style way, a more structured way. Whereas these newer podcasts, McAfee, New Heights, it's comedic, it's entertaining, it still gets the news across. It appeals to me much more. So I like those shows much more. But I mentioned Jason Kelce getting into some yelling matches on the sidelines last week. I was hoping it would get brought up on the podcast this week, and it did. And I love what he said about it. So I'd kind of bashed AJ Brown previously for throwing a fit, and then Jalen Hurts start feeding him the ball, and it kind of disrupted the offense earlier this season. And I've had conversations with people before about OBJ throwing fits on the sideline in the past, Des Bryant, things like that. And a lot of people try to chalk that up to passion and and they use that as the excuse. And I've always said, no, that's not passion. You're throwing a fit. You're not happy. Like, yes, everybody wants to win. You got 53 people on that sideline that want to win. I mean, more than that. That's 53 players. You got coaches, you got trainers, you got everybody on that sideline wants you to win. So what Jason Kelce says on in the TikTok about it, he says that it's not helpful, it's not respectful, it's not the right way to handle the situation. And I love that he said that. He says I've got to do better. I've got to control the outburst, and it's and he emphasizes it's not productive. It doesn't help anything, and he's right. In the moment it doesn't. And if you watch the podcast and the longer clip of it, he goes into more detail and basically saying everything he's bringing up and everything he's saying in the moment does not fix the situation. Like he talks about he's frustrated with the red zone offense. It's not that he wants to be more involved because he's the center. He's as involved as he can be. But he's talking about how they're having to settle for field goals way too often in the red zone, and the frustration is starting to build on him, and that's kind of what he blew his top about. And he says everything that he said and brought up in the moment would not have helped or changed anything. And it was just a disruption, and it just brought a bunch of negative attention. And like I said, he says it's disrespectful and it's not productive and it's not useful. And he's right. I mean, those kind of things, those kind of frustrations, they're better they're better received behind closed doors where the media's not getting involved with it, bringing it up, trying to cause distractions with it, and bringing it up in team meetings and having talks when game plans are being put in place. That's where things can be changed and things can be fixed. And he's not bringing up an issue that no one other than himself was aware of. Everybody has seen how they've been settling for field goals a lot. So but Travis, they both talk about it, and Travis says, this is why you're one of the leaders on the team. This is why you're one of the most well-respected guys on the team. Is you had that happen, but you're old enough, smart enough, and you're a leader, and because of that, you can step away and see the situation from the outside and know that, hey, it was handled wrongly. I should not have acted that way. I've got to do better, and you can move forward and do better. And that's why you are one of the most well respected members of that team. And I really like what they both said on the situation. And I feel like a lot of other players around the league could really learn and become more well liked and more well respected by handling things in that same mentality of, yeah, you may have an outburst, but don't try to make excuses for it, because Jason didn't. He did not try to make excuses for it. He said why he had it, and he straight up said it was not okay. And that I have a lot of respect for somebody that can say, like, I was completely in the wrong. It was not it was not right. I shouldn't have done it, and I've got to do better. Like I have a lot of respect for somebody that can do that, and he can. And no one is doubting that he is not a good teammate. No one's doubting that he doesn't care about the organization, want to win, all of that thing. So it's just a really good clip to look into. Really, I think a lot of younger players, younger athletes could learn a lot from that clip, because at the end of the day, you want to win. Everybody wants to win, and I know everyone wants to be the reason you're winning, but sometimes you can't always be the reason you're winning. If you're a running back and you're the reason they're winning every time, it's unrealistic, because teams are going to game plan to take you out of the game and stop you. Same for a wide receiver. Really, the same for a quarterback. Teams are going to try to game plan to limit you. So someone has to step up every game and get the job done. And whoever's being able to do it, as long as you're winning, that's what matters. So the whole point of that rant, listen to the clip, go about it the way Kelce goes about it, and be respectful. take responsibility, say it's wrong, I got to do better, and moving forward, we're going to try not to have that happen. But very, very classy on his part. That's why I became a fan of his. But anyway, um, I don't really. I know the big college football matchup of the weekend is Oregon and Washington. Very good game, probably. I know, um, not necessarily to my delight, but I was not upset about the fact that Colorado was up 29-0, I think, at halftime and lost in double overtime. Um, I think it's very humbling for not necessarily. I mean, it is for Dion as a coach, but I think some of his players, especially like his son, the quarterback, how he's been showing off his watch and just showboating all the time. Like you, you've played a handful of college games. Like you've been on the big stage a minimal amount of time. You shouldn't be showboating like that. And losses like this, I think, will humble him and hopefully help the team in the long run. Hopefully, help him as a player in the long run to know when the right time to showboat is and when not to. And it's, you look at, a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you know, MVP, Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowls, been in three, and you don't see him doing that stuff. So, um, as a quarterback, I don't I don't think that that's the right personality and the right way to handle things. But again, that goes back to being respectful and uh, being a leader. Kind of similar things what I was just talking about with Jason Kelce. But uh, anyway, not everybody has the same opinion as me. That's that's perfectly okay. Doesn't make mine right or wrong. Doesn't make theirs right or wrong. But anyway, those are my game picks for week 6. We will check in Monday after the majority of these games have been played. We'll talk about what goes on for the weekend, and we'll roll into some new videos next week. Thanks, and hope your team wins this week.